grandfather of King Tutankhamun, King Amenhotep III, during the 18th dynasty in the ancient Egyptian history. Then later on after that, during the 19th dynasty, during the time of King Ramesses II, he decided to add a whole part in front of the original temple. He wanted to claim the whole thing as if it's his own, okay? And he made it so obvious at the entrance of the temple, similar to Abu Simbel, all of the big statues. Again, we got all of the statues are for King Ramesses II. The standing statues, the seated statues, all representations for King Ramesses II. We have an obelisk on the left side, and we used to have an identical one on the right hand side, but it was given as a gift to the French people by one of the Ottoman ruler for Egypt. His name was Muhammad Ali. Okay, this was in the 1840s. He was not Egyptian, and he decided to give an Egyptian obelisk to the French people, and today it's standing at the Concours Square in Paris, the most famous Egyptian obelisk that's outside of Egypt. Okay, so this temple was very important during the time of the ancient Egyptians, because together this one and Karnak, that's around 3 kilometers far from here, that we'll visit tomorrow, the two temples were connected by this road, famously known as the Avenue of Sphinx. 3.5 kilometers connect all the distance between Luxor and Karnak. This was the main road that the ancient Egyptians used to do their biggest celebration ever, when they would carry the sacred boats with the statues of the gods, the three gods, the holy triad of Luxor, or the holy trinity of Luxor. God Amun-Ra, his wife Goddess Mut, and their son God Khonsu. Three of them were known or referred to as the holy triad of Luxor. So during the celebration, they would carry the sacred boats of the three gods with their golden statues inside in a very big procession, starting in Karnak, and they will walk the whole way through the Avenue of Sphinx. That's why we have Sphinx on both sides, to protect and to guard, because the Sphinx was an image of a guardian god, to guard the procession of the gods while they are on their way from Karnak to Luxor. They will arrive to Luxor here, continue the celebration inside, and then on the way back to Karnak, they would use the Nile River to bless the water of the Nile. They will use a bigger boats on the Nile River and put the sacred boats on top of it, and they will sail down to Karnak, and the celebration will end there. Very recently, 3 years ago, after we finally continued all the restoration of the Sphinx through the whole road of the Avenue of Sphinx, we created an imitation celebration for the ancient Egyptian celebration. It was huge. People with outfits, costumes. We did like replicas of the boats, walking in a procession between the two temples. You can search it on YouTube, the Avenue of Sphinx celebration. It is amazing. Okay?
Wow. Did you have it every year?
No, it just happened once to celebrate. It is the most important gods in ancient Egypt used to come in a procession through this road. So after the temple, we're gonna experience the energy. We will walk through a part of the road and take it all in. Okay, after the main entrance of the temple, they will always have the courts to allow the people to attend, anybody to attend the celebration and rituals at the temple, because not everybody is allowed to go any further, as we knew before, same as Fila Temple. Okay, something very unique about this temple is the mosque that's built on top of the temple. This is the oldest mosque in Luxor, about 600 years old, and it is built on top of Luxor Temple, because during the time when it was built 600 years ago, you see the decorated arch over there, you see the wooden gate in the middle. This was the entrance of the temple, the entrance of the mosque, because the whole temple was buried under the sand up to the level of the gate, the wooden gate over there.
Wow.
before the excavation starting here in this side, it was buried under the sand up to that level.
So they knew something was here.
Of course they knew, and they can see the base of it. So they said, let's use the base. We will explain more about this when we are in Karnak, because at that point, every single knowledge about anything that's ancient Egyptian were completely lost. The people have no idea what's the value of those things or what does it mean or anything. All what they knew is like, how can we use them for our normal daily life? We want to build a mosque. Okay, we have some ruins here, a solid base. Instead of creating a new one, let's use this to build the mosque on top of. Because there was zero knowledge about the value of what the temple, what even ancient Egypt is, what are the pharaohs, like, it was all lost and gone. Tomorrow again in Karnak, we will talk and explain why did this happen. Anyways, that's the reason why the mosque is built on top of the temple, which also, by the way, during excavation underneath the mosque, behind those walls, they found the ruins of a church. Dates back to the 4th century AD. So it's an ancient Egyptian temple, a church, and a mosque. Wow. All of the layers of the main cultures and religions that came in Egypt. Yes. By the time the excavation work is done and they digged and they took all the sand out, the mosque was already very old to be removed. Because according to the regulations in Egypt, any building more than 100 years old, it's under the supervision of the antiquities, the Ministry of Antiquities. So it was old already, so they didn't take it up. They just closed the entrance from here and they created another entrance from the other side where all those people were sitting out there. You enter the mosque through, well, by all of those crowds were outside. And it's still an active mosque till today. Actually, in like right before we are leaving, you will start hearing the prayer, the evening prayer, the last prayer of the day. Okay? The other thing about this part of the temple, we have these 3 rooms over here, or 3 shrines here. Those were stops for the 3 of the boats of the gods. On the way, right when they enter the temple, they will make a stop here, place each of them inside a shrine. The middle one was for Amun-Ra, his wife goddess Mut, and their son god Khonsu. Crown, the cobra over the forehead for protection, the headdress, the false beard, like all the things. We have the tattoo, scarf on the shoulder, the birth name and the coronation name, similar to the statue that we saw for him at the Grand Egyptian Museum. The base of his throne, similar to Abu Simbel. You will see the representation of the enemies of Egypt are represented, all tied from the necks and from the hands behind their backs. Here are the southern, the African enemies, and the eastern enemies. Look at the difference in the faces. Those are like the Asia Minor, which is today of Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, Israel, this part, while the other side were our southern African enemies. Okay? Also similar to Abu Simbel, since I didn't get closer to it to explain it for you, this is the same representation we have at the throne at Abu Simbel. 2 representations for God of the Nile, always identified by the big belly, big boobs, holding the lotus and the papyrus plants, the symbols of Upper and Lower Egypt. In the middle here, we have a representation of trachea and the 2 lungs. Represents life, the breath of life. Also referring to the Nile River, because the Nile River was the purpose or the reason for the life in ancient Egypt. Through the Nile River that's giving life to the ancient Egyptian, God of the Nile that represents the Nile connects Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt together, because the 2 plants were the symbols of Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. Both of them are being noted together through the Nile River to show the unity between the 2 parts, to show that Ramesses II was able to keep the unity strong of the 2 parts of the country, Upper and Lower Egypt. he was a pharaoh, King Akhenaten, who once he started to rule, he decided to shift and change the whole religious belief of the ancient Egyptians. He said there won't be any more multiple identification for the gods. There is no anymore Amun and Ra and Ma'at and Horus, all of those. It will only be one representation of the god. He called this god Aton or Eton, and he ordered to shut down all of the temples all over Egypt that's dedicated for all to other gods. And he even built a new capital city kind of in the middle of nowhere during his time in a place called Tel El Amarna in Minya, halfway between Cairo and Luxor. No one was happy about what he did. The Egyptians, especially the priests, because all the temples were shut down. After he died, and during the time of King Tutankhamun, who was originally, his name was Tutankhamun, because he's part of the name Amun, Tutankhamun, and his father didn't believe in Amun. So he didn't name his son Tutankhamun, because Tutankhamun means given life by Amun. There was no Amun during the time of his father, there was Aton. So his original name was Tutankhamun, but after he started to rule, they say he decided, but I don't think an 8-year-old boy will get the knowledge to actually take such a decision. It was the perfect time for the priests to give him a piece of paper and ask him, can you please sign here? Issue a royal decree to go back to the old cult of Amun Ra and open the temples again. This was the actual temple before Ramesses built his part, the part that was made by the grandfather of King Tutankhamun. This was the open porch of that temple. It has all the elements again, all the way till we get to the sanctuary, which is very interesting here. You will see a lot of very unique and rare representations inside. Inside, it's famously known now as the Roman Luxor Temple, because when Egypt was a part of the Roman Empire, after Christianity, the people converted this part of the temple to be a church. And they did a different technique here. They covered the wall with another layer of pilaster that used to be covering the whole wall, but most of it fell out of the wall through the time. So you can see the original wall with the ancient Egyptian carving. The parts that still covered with the layer of pilaster, why they covered them? To be able to paint over this new layer religious scenes in a Roman style of art, because this was during that time. And we still have a remaining part on the top here, on the corner, that is believed to be a representation of the Last Supper.
Oh my gosh.
And if this is true, this is a remaining from a representation of the Last Supper, that will make it the oldest painting of the Last Supper ever existed. The oldest one that still remains. This part that you can see on the top here. All the temples in ancient Egypt used to be fully colored. Like such a temple like this, imagine it used to be fully colored. Then, I don't think you've seen carvings of this before. Here, this is goddess Mut, represented in a form of a queen. That's why she is wearing the crown of a queen. You see how it's different crowns from this one to this one. So it shows that she is the equivalent to a queen, or the queen of Egypt is a representation of goddess Mut. We have our big guy, god of the Nile, bringing all the wealth from the Nile River, all the plants and foods and fruits that used to grow on the side of the Nile River. They always wanted to make sure to refer everything they have to the Nile, represented in a form of god of the Nile, god Ha.
These were the Asian enemies here, as he mentioned. These were the African enemies of Ramses II. This road goes all the way to Karnak. This was a location that's completely full of people enjoying a dinner and time together. They were shooting off fireworks, and in the background is the Luxor Temple that we just saw. Another incredible tour. Thanks to Ashley and Anton and our bus driver and our security.